the idea that he was grappling with old age in so many different ways. One scene would have done it. They had about 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think to have both the not being able to pee scene and falling over the furniture.
Yeah, I mean, before I say anything horrible, I've got to say I love Clint Eastwood. I think he's like.
You didn't. I mean, you didn't even think that there was some actually the idea of the father-daughter. I mean, it's not new, but you know, baseball. How many baseball films have we had? We've obviously had Moneyball, League of Their Own.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. So we're back at baseball. What is this desire to go back to baseball?
Well, baseball's a very...
Well, of course.
Exactly. They're idiots. Whereas people who trust their gut, the old men, they're the...
Interestingly, it has had better reviews than I would have imagined in the States. Now, is that because of this wonderful residual affection for Clint Eastwood, you know, and he is just an icon of the cinema? Or is it because they like these kind of films where, you know, triumph over the kind of, you know, the kind of smart-ass youngsters?
Well, there is a whole new trend in movies with older people.
Well, that kind of sets up their relationship. But, you know, that aside, and that was one of the few scenes, of course, that Clint Eastwood was not in it.
Yeah.
The power of Clint Eastwood is that this was his first AD who'd been working. He had a pretty good fist of directing, didn't he? He wasn't helped by the script.
I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting idea. We've grown up with all sorts of people who are brilliant actors who are now older and do get these parts. So, for example, Jack Nicholson is one of the exemplaries. You know, the idea that him, you know, Kathleen, no, I was going to say Kathleen Turner. Yeah, Kathleen Turner is another one. There should be parts for these people, shouldn't there, in movies? They should be, you know, people are living longer. They want to see some of the people that they've grown up with continue to have a career.
Absolutely, and, you know...
Setting was absolutely wonderful, and I loved the idea that you were actually on a catwalk, and the scary thing was you could actually reach out and touch these dresses. But I think some of them were actually beyond the pretty. I think because of the actual craftswomanship, because of course he's been working with the same seamstresses for years, that you could appreciate the artistry in some of the know. Because what I want to know is I thought some of the dresses were absolutely beautiful, and I thought that the jacket footage there of the Marie Chantal, I wanted photographs of people you know, the people that the dresses were made for wearing them, because it would just have given me context and it would have given me era.
But in fact, what you had in to a fashion show, I've never been to a fashion event. I'm not interested. I thought the dresses, some of them were exquisitely beautiful. I thought I could see all about celebrity. It was all about money.
See, it didn't have to actually all be about celebrity. I think that's quite the interesting thing, that the way the emplacements were made it like celebrity.
Yes, yeah, but I incredibly rarefied. Well, in fact,
but can't you say that you can appreciate it without being able to afford it? I mean, you can appreciate a Picasso, but you can't afford it. And you had the red collection, you had a lot of lovely, the beading and the lace. And what they'd done, and rather than done it chronologically, they'd done the kind of inheritors of the house, the two people that worked with Valentino for the last 13 years, and some of their pieces. And you did see a thread of the idea of this Italian couture house that were of a particular artistic era as well, particularly 60s. Sure. Your design aesthetic is perhaps different, but you know, as a producer, as a film producer, and as somebody who's actually putting a look and a style as well as the kind of content film is important, isn't it, to get that right?
It's everything is what people are wearing on.
Called Valentino the Last Emperor, and he really is part of this, you know, Dolce Vita world that's disappearing, and he was...
Can't all be. Valentino...
What Spike Lee has done is assembled a vast cast of what he calls witnesses, people in the music.
And pinnacle of his career. It was extraordinary actually watching. I mean, actually now even watching back at those music videos, you realise that nobody can really dance like him even now.
Incredible.
Yeah. I don't know. I was for the thing everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah, but
no, because he isn't glossing over it. We all know about the Freak Show, and he starts off with that piece by Freaks, which is that freaks are human beings who bring out or echo.
Well, the one problem with it is that there's this massive gaping hole in it, which is he didn't get an interview. The real problem I thought with it is that it's not that it glosses over other stuff, it's that it's such a hagiography. And this album was
because
good
nobody would refuse. The point is that nobody refuses Spike Lee an interview. He says Spike Lee wants to come and talk to you and do a film. They go, okay. That's fine.
But there was no
best stories, and because I mean, if you're going to put Michael Jackson and Prince together, I know who I go for because I'm a huge Prince fan. And with that great story, which they allowed Jackson to be a bit weird, where someone arranged a meeting because they want to meet, and then he comes in and he thinks Prince has put a hex on him. And I just thought it was great because that showed that even early on. But no, and what we will know about him, we'll never know what he thought himself about anything.
No, well, but you
claiming him for that because
yes,
because the whole idea, and actually pushing those and telling us about those gospel roots and actually deconstructing some of those songs and taking it back to the basics. That for me was the most interesting stuff.
I just felt that this album is strong enough to withstand some actual strength.
But you know, did you think, when I read it, I thought that she'd written it to be read or even turned into what was to become television by other people or radio.
Yeah, it's crazily risky when you open that book, isn't
it? Did you? I actually at some point was going, did she really write that?
Well, I mean, she does write beautifully, and feeling, and the way she talked about.
She's not very sympathetic.
The way she talked, and actually the way, I mean, it's
more genuine stuff about the war. But then maybe it reminded me that for lots of people, what they knew about the war was scant. It was the wireless, it was the odd bulletin, it was going into the cinema. But it's.
You never get any sense which of the men she actually liked.
I thought I have to say, I ended up strongly disliking her. At first.
But she never ever talks with any affection, really. Well, there's the odd occasion when she's talking about kids in the snow, about the kids that she's teaching.
Nothing. And when her grandfather dies, when her grandmother dies, she's completely unmoved. So I'm afraid I ended up thinking she was a heartless bitch.
The other thing, did you think that the cast of characters was such that it would have helped if it had a bit of a glossary? To give us an idea. You want a bit stronger editing, I think. And I thought there was a lot of repetition, and as you say, you know, too much of the going to the hairdresser, you know, popping along. We could have done with less of that.
Far too much. I mean, it's actually only in the last, I think that the last 2 years were compressed.
You know, we've seen it with Marks and Spencer, obviously.
Yeah, but also The Guardian has blazed the trail with all that as well.
Yes, with all ages. Exactly. And you have people like Charlotte Rampling who get on the covers of French
fashion story you like rather than catwalk stories.
Yeah, well, it's
keep us in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, earlier on about your kids on Twitter, but this is the power of the internet, actually. This has gone viral and it's been such a massive success.
Yeah. How did I miss this one? You know?
You just have to sit there a lot longer on the...
Okay.
Well, look, that's nearly all for this week. My thanks to Hadley Freeman, Christina Patterson and Mark Miller.